Hi, I'm Mitchell Wright, the cellist in the Aura Contemporary Ensemble at the University of Houston. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Ryan Brown, the composer of The Light by Which She May Have Ascended. And he is based in San Francisco. Am I correct?
Mhm.
Yes. All right. Um, so, first of all, Ryan, I had a fantastic time recording this. It was really my first involvement with multiple track recordings of myself.
Mm.
Um, and I really enjoyed it. I really did. And so I just had a few questions about the piece.
Great.
Um, First, I wanted to know, just starting with the title, um, what is the meaning behind the light by which you may have ascended, and where did the inspiration with that come from?
Great. Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for recording it and for your interest in it. That's such a pleasure. This piece was written after my grandmother died, who I was really close to, in 2003. I guess she died in January 2004, really early. Yeah, she was like another mother to me growing up. We were really, really close. And I grew up in Southern California outside LA. And over the winter break at the end of 2003, I had gone down and seen her, and she was in hospice. And it was really my last time seeing her. And it was just a couple weeks after that, into January, when she passed away. And I just remember I was in grad school at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and just, dealing, processing those emotions while also having just started grad school actually for composition, and just got the idea in my head for this piece. It has kind of a pattern to it, a system. Obviously, it's a canon between
Right.
four voices, but even the relation of the notes and how they ascend in this kind of cyclical way where they're kind of looping back, but always just starting a step higher than they did
Right.
the previous time on this little 5-note scale. So that just kind of came to mind, and the moment class was out, I raced back home and wrote it out, and it really came together very, very quickly, the whole thing in one day, because the pattern sounded good, like I hoped it would. It didn't sound too canonic, which I was afraid of, that it would just sound like a process piece, which can be boring. But I liked that it was simple. I liked that it kind of has this ambiguous, not quite sad, not quite happy tone to it, at least to my mind. And the title just came right away. I liked that it was ascending. She was kind of culturally Catholic, I would say. She was Italian. She came as a young child from Italy. She would take me to Catholic Mass once a week, but it was always in kind of like a social way. I mean, I think there was some belief there, but it was also largely to see friends and,
Right.
just like what you do in that culture. So I, it has a spiritual bent to it without being orthodox, I think. And light and ascension obviously has kind of a religious overtone to it.
Right.
So that was kind of my thinking. And, it also called to mind some works by Arvo Pärt, for example, who uses processes in a very straightforward way that can have a big emotional result. And I think for him in particular, he does that as a way to kind of make it more objective, and he's a devoutly religious person. And I think to him, it's kind of taking the personal out of it and making it spirituality, something that's outside of yourself and outside of your ego. And that was kind of how I viewed this piece too. I really felt like it wrote itself, and she was clearly on my mind when I wrote it, even though I didn't set out to write it about her, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's kind of the process of writing it. This is clearly an expression of this idea. And then I think because of that, I made the decision kind of at the very last minute to have the last cello stop on F instead of A, so it ends on a major third
Right.
rather than a unison, which I think kind of settles the emotional ambiguity in a major way, in a positive, kind of the final goal is a positive thing. And then, as far as the backing track, that was something I went back and forth on. Once I kind of realized as it was being written, as it was kind of coming out, really over the course of one day, that it was about her. I can't remember what it's called, but she died of kind of breathing complications, and she had this kind of raspy breath sound. And I thought about putting that sound as the backing track or some kind of breathing. And I tried it and it just sounded too depressing and too sad. And I really wanted something more ambiguous. So then we lived, at the time I was living near an elementary school with a big outdoor playground. And I was walking and heard them playing, all the kids playing outside, and realized, again, I'm not religious at all. In fact, I'm atheist, but the idea that this kind of view of heaven as a place of rebirth and innocence and childlike qualities resonated with hearing that sound and thinking, she was 87 when she died, but I like this idea that in the afterlife, you can kind of start over no matter how old you are. You can kind of return to that feeling of youth where everything is kind of golden, And I thought maybe that would play against the sadness of the topic and, add a level of hope and optimism to it. So that's what stuck.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks.
and you kind of answered a little bit my next question, where I was just wondering, the reasoning for the very simple melody and stripped back. And so, you answered that very well.
Thanks. Yeah. I like the ambiguity of it. That particular mode, like I said, it's kind of major, it's kind of minor. Mm-hmm. And certainly depending on how, especially when there's four voices, how they line up at any one time, it's never quite the same.
Right.
And really that there might have been a little trial and error there, but not much. It came out pretty fast, which is not my usual MO for composing at all. Maybe in the fastest piece I've ever written. And it was originally done with 4 live cellos the first time I heard it, but it's only been done that way a few times. I think more and more lately it's done with multi-tracking.
Yeah. Wow.
There's also a bass clarinet version too, which a friend of mine did.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And my next question, seeing, I looked through some of your other solo works, and most of them are for piano. I think 4 of them you've written for piano. Why did you pick cello specifically for this piece?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love the cello. It's always been one of my favorite instruments.
Same here.
In this, I don't actually remember. I think it was just when I imagined, I play the guitar, and the range of the cello and the guitar is pretty similar. So that kind of baritone to tenor range, but the cello has such a huge range. And I think that was part of it, was that I needed an instrument that could sustain, but also cover, I don't even remember, what does it go, 1, 2, 3 octaves of A, so that seemed like a good choice. And, it has that kind of tone where when you start on that A, it's in kind of a mournful quality, you're on the G string, and then as it gets higher, the cello can obviously go even higher than that A, but it has such a intensity to it, it just felt like the right range. No other instrument can cover that particular range. And that A, which isn't necessarily high for a lot of instruments on the cello, has a certain intensity. Certainly the F does as well, and to tune with that A on that F, I know isn't always easy. So.
Yeah. Great. And my last question for you is, what are you currently working on?
So because of COVID, so many things are on hold, but I actually finished a piece for wind and brass octet earlier this year that was supposed to be premiered in May, and that got put on hold. So that premiere is TBD. And the other project that got put on hold was, I have an hour-long work called Mortal Lessons. I don't know why there seems to be a death theme at the moment, but it's about kind of the experience of being in hospitals, the way people face mortality and all of that. I've been trying to get it recorded, and that was going to be my big summer project, was to get that done, and that's on hold as well. So, and in terms of writing new pieces, I'm kind of in between things at the moment, trying to figure out what's next. I'm more trying to really, more to lessons has been my focus for a while in terms of documenting it. It's a big project, so that's on pause as well. That's where I'm at.
All right. Thank you so much for meeting me.
Absolutely.
And talking. It really was a pleasure to play this piece.
Great. Thanks, Mitchell.